Now then, Vinyl Monkey again, continuing part 2 of my celebration of the album cover, the record cover. I did 30 to 16 last week, 15 to number 1 in my humble opinion today, and I think I got cut off just before the end last time, as I was just talking about my number 16, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, and I think I was just explaining that the sort of cover was designed with the idea that the album would be titled War Pigs, the title of the first track, but the record company changed their mind last minute but decided to keep the cover the same, and they changed their mind probably because the Vietnam War was still raging. They didn't want to offend any pro-Vietnam War customer base, particularly in America, and secondly because Paranoid, the song Paranoid, was expected to be a single, and I think they thought there was a market and opportunity to call the album the same thing. But anyway, that was my number 16. Hopefully I won't get cut off today, because I'm going to try and talk rapidly through 15 to number 1. And my number 15 is John Lennon's Walls and Bridges from 1974. And picture of John Lennon on the back, and this cover, it's got all sorts of bells and whistles. You can sort of change the photo to make Lennon look how you particularly want him to look. The front cover has, in fact the whole album artwork is based around John's pictures from when he was 11-year-old. This is a cup final between Newcastle and, is it Arsenal? I should know that, but that's Robledo scoring the goal, and that's Newcastle's famous number 9, Jackie Milburn. And the reason this was significant to John was he lived at that time in number 9 Newcastle Road in Liverpool, and but the rest of the album, it contains this lovely booklet with some really good photos. A bit of an essay on the back, which perhaps is a bit of a waste. It's a bit overlong, but it's a sort of origin of the Lennon name, and it goes into great detail about the origins, particularly in Ireland, of the Lennon name. And the last sentence of it says that no person of the name Leonard, which is the English derivative of Lennon, has distinguished himself in the political, military or cultural life of Ireland, or for that matter England either. And John Lennon in handwriting says, "Oh yeah." So it's quite funny, but perhaps a bit overlong. But inside is the lyrics and more John Lennon paintings from age 11, including that great one of his teacher at the time. And the whole thing's about, it was done in Lennon's lost weekend when he was separated from Yoko for 18 months, and the lyrics are an appeal to Yoko, and I think my understanding is the album is as well. It's showing John as a lighter side, a funny side, and I think he's wanting to present that side to Yoko. That's my interpretation. Might be off the mark, but anyway, it's a lovely cover. It's my number 15, John Lennon, Walls and Bridges. My number 14 is the British blues band 10 Years After from 1969. Shush. This is photography by a guy called John Fowley and Graham Nash of the Hollies, who is also, and I didn't appreciate that, I looked this up, he is also a renowned photographer and collector of photography, and I just love the photography on this, and the way they've got this sort of split image of Alvin Lee on the front. Great picture of the band in their sort of bluesy, trippy sort of 60s psychedelic outfits there, and just those eyes in the middle. And I just think it sort of sums up what 10 Years After we're trying to do. They're trying to take the sort of blues in a particular direction. And there's a nice little essay. I always like it when there's a bit of an essay by the artist themselves, and there's a little essay there by Alvin Lee, which basically rubbishes their first 3 albums. This is their 4th album, and he says the first 3 were all pretty crap. This is the one you want. So whether you call that brutal honesty or a clever marketing ploy, whichever. But anyway, that's my number 14, 10 years after. My number 13, Led Zepp 3. Could have held up any of Zepp's first half a dozen albums or more, really. But I particularly like this one. I like it not just because it's got this little wheel effect where it's a bit of a gimmick, really. If you turn this wheel, you can change the images in the cut-out holes on the front cover. It's got a picture of the band on the back, and on the inside, just a sort of collage of mixture of images to do with, I'm not even sure if there is a theme, all sorts of images, but it's the colours and the style of it, which I think for me was signifying a sort of shift from the perhaps heavier first two albums into something a bit more whimsical, a bit more folky perhaps, and I think it sort of achieves that for me. So that's my number 13, Led Zepp 3. It was designed by a guy called Zacron, real name Richard Drew, who met Jimmy Page when they were both at art college together. Led Zepp 3 from 1970. My number 12, the other extreme really. This is just stark and basic and minimalist. This is Leonard Cohen's Songs of Love and Hate, and all you've got is pure black and white, nothing inside, no lyrics, no credits, no information, nobody credited with any musical input or artistic input into this album, producer or engineer or anything not listed. All you've got is a little poem on the back. They locked up a man who wanted to rule the world. The fools, they locked up the wrong man. And I think for me this just sums up what you get in here. This is one of Cohen's starkest albums, also one of his best albums in my opinion, but the album cover sums up the feel of the album, and for me that's why it's in my top 15 at number 12. At number 11, and I wasn't sure whether I should have included this, but I couldn't not somewhere, but this is Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience Electric Ladyland, and the front of the gatefold cover is a photo of 19 naked women, not in particularly flattering poses or anything. Some of them are holding some of Hendrix's LPs, previous LPs, but in the middle you've got this stunning photograph of Hendrix, one of my favourite photographs of Hendrix of all time, and the photographer there has actually lit a fire and some burning rags or something behind Hendrix to get that smoke and flame effect. But for the front cover, controversial really for obvious reasons, exploitative certainly. Hendrix, who was touring at the time, had actually written to the record company on hotel notepaper, and there's copies of this letter on the internet. You look them up, fascinating, where he was suggesting how he'd like the record cover to look, and he was suggesting pictures of the band with school kids at a playground, and he set it all out. He even suggested that Linda McCartney, then Linda Eastman, who was the photographer, should be asked to take the photographs for the cover. Anyway, the record company in England at least totally ignored him. They sent a photographer over the road from the record company to a speakeasy, as they say, who then asked women if they'd pose naked or topless, a tenner if they were totally naked, a fiver if they were topless, allegedly, and he gathered them together for this one-off photo shoot. So he paid out, well, a maximum of 190 quid. I think in total, and for obvious reasons, this would stop people in their tracks as they were flicking through albums in the record shops, and presumably it had the desired effect. Hendrix wasn't happy with it, and I think it's sort of indicative of the artistic tensions between artists and record companies. But I've stuck it in there. I could have stuck it anywhere or left it out, but I've stuck it in there at number 11. That's Hendrix Electric Ladyland from 1968. My number 10, this is a great album. This is The Real Thing, the soul band, You To Me Are Everything and all of that. And this is 4 from 8. picture of Upper Stanhope Street in Toxteth. The 8 in the title relates to Liverpool 8, which is Toxteth. Inside, a picture of one of the cathedrals, I'm not sure which one, that span that area, with a sort of wasteland in the front. Inside, you've got a great photographs of the band members, Eddie and Chris Amoo, Dave Smith, Ray Lake. Lyrics, so you've got it all there. You've got this interesting cutout sort of front sheet, and inside you've got the real thing at their best, in my opinion, but at their most political. Children of the Ghetto, Liverpool 8, Stanhope Street, talking about the poverty and inequality in that area, and presaging by 4 years the sort of Toxteth Riots, which followed in 1981. This was 77. The band say this is the record they're most proud of. I think it's a brilliant record. It's a great cover which suggests what you're going to get from them. You're not going to get a sing-along disco soul album, but apparently their record company didn't like it. This didn't really push it. They stopped pushing the band after that, and they felt that going political as opposed to disco pop was unfortunately, commercially at least, the ruin of the band. But it's absolutely stunning. The real thing. 4 from 8. Next one, number 9. This is Prefab Sprout, I Troll the Megahertz. Brilliant cover. I don't know whether you can see it there, of, I don't know, presumably megahertz, sort of radio waves or electric current waves or something. Lovely long essay from Paddy McAloon inside, really interesting and insightful. And the inner covers include a great sort of picture of McAloon alongside the lyrics, and everything. Is really pushed the boat out with this one. He's remastered it. He brought it out originally on CD only, but he's recently remastered this, and I say packaged it absolutely beautiful. Prefab Sprout, I Troll the Megahertz. That's my number 9. My number 8 is a Jethro Tull album. I could have picked a few different Jethro Tull ones. One of their early ones, Stand Up. You open it up and the sort of band members in cards sort of popped up like those pop-up birthday cards. But this was a couple of albums later than that. This is Thick as a Brick, their famous album, which was one of the first pop rock albums to which only included one track spanning the both sides. But the record cover, which the band, and I think particularly Ian Anderson, designed and wanted from the start and argued with the record company. Unlike Hendrix, they won that argument. They wanted a local small town newspaper as the cover, and this is my original from the 70s, and I'm afraid it's dropping to bits now, so I don't want to open it all up. But it's a 12-page newspaper which centres on this little guy, Gerald Bostock, 8-year-old Gerald Bostock, who'd won a poetry prize. He's some sort of prodigy. And there's lots of articles, typical small town articles, all including actually a review of this record. And inside they print Bostock's poem, which is actually the lyrics for the record. So, you know, it's a sort of, on the one level, it's a sophisticated attempt to do something different. On the other level, the humour is very Monty Python-esque, and in that sense, for me, very dated and sort of public schoolboy-y, really. I mean, I thought it was sort of humorous at the time when I was at school myself, but nowadays it is a little bit tiresome. But it is a classic cover, and it is my number 8, Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. My number 7, this is gorgeous. This is Blue, Joni Mitchell. This is an album that centres on a relationship with James Taylor, which was, I think, going through a blue period. Brilliant photograph on the front by a guy called Tim Considine, who, useless trivia, his wife starred in Little House on the Prairie apparently. The artistic director who put this together, Gary Burden, was credited as a pioneer of the record cover as art. Inside, again, all in blue, are the beautiful lyrics to this album. And it's just simple, it's stunning, really gorgeous. Joni Mitchell, Blue, a classic. That's my number 7. My number 6, I had to put a Captain Beefheart one in. Don Van Vliet, the singer, writer, leader, composer of Captain Beefheart, is a renowned visual artist. He went on, when he finished rock and roll, not that long after this 1980 album actually, to concentrate for the rest of his life on his paintings, and he's included them on a couple of his albums, and I just love his paintings. This is Shiny Beast Back Chain Puller. There's another sketch on the back, and inside there's a drawing by Don Van Vliet. And I just love it when when you've got an artist who's using more than one medium. He's using the music, the lyrics, his art to convey his thoughts and his feelings. Yeah, brilliant. So that's Captain Beefheart, Shiny Beast from 1980. That's my number 6. My number 5 is the Beatles, and the title of this album is The Beatles. You can't probably see it, it's embossed, I can feel it there. It says The Beatles there, but it is purely white on the outside. And this became known almost immediately. They're into the shops as the White Album, and it's been known as that ever since. Everybody refers to it as the White Album. And this came out just after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which was very, very different. Both designed by British pop artists. This one by a guy called Richard Hamilton, who was a mate of Paul McCartney, and he in fact jointly designed it with Paul McCartney. He was an art teacher, I think at the time. He was actually teaching up in Newcastle. He was teaching He was one of Brian Ferry's teachers apparently. But it's just a counterpoint to Sgt. Pepper's, which was sort of colourful, bright, sort of more complex. This is just beautifully simple and iconic. And inside this album you got 4 gorgeous portraits of John, Paul, even Paul looking interested in that pose, Ringo, and of course George. But they're lovely portrait photos taken by the Beatles photographer John Kelly. And then inside that a poster. I'm not keen on posters. There's a few of these albums have got posters in, and I never know what, they don't open very easily. I'm never going to stick them on my bedroom wall really, but you've got the lyrics on one side of the poster, and then you've got a collage of Beatles related images on the other side. So you get the whole package there inside it, but outside of it, beautiful simplicity. That's the Beatles, aka the White Album. My number 4, this is Charles Aznavour, French chansonnier, and I think this is probably closest to how, if I ever get a major label to bring out a solo album for me, I'd maybe want it to look like this, where you've got some sort of artist doing a sort of very arty impression on the front. This is by an Italian guy whose his main job was painting classic film posters, Vanity Aldi they call him. In the 60s and 70s he painted a lot of the spaghetti western posters and things like that, and it's a great image of Aznavour. Inside you've got a brilliant photograph there with the street scene reflected in Aznavour's sunglasses, and then on the back I just think that is an absolute classic photograph. Charles looking absolutely super cool, newspaper under his arm, wandering sort of alone, aloof, important, sophisticated. Yeah, brilliant. I just think that is a superb album cover, and it's not a bad album either actually. He can sing, the guy. So Charles Aznavour, that's my number 4. My number 3, this is beautifully simple as well, and this is the Slider This is T-Rex from 1972, and I think it's, yeah, so you've just got Mark Bolan on the front, and then you've got a back view of Mark Bolan on the back. You've just got it in black and white with red lettering, and then inside you've got red and black the lyrics. So beautifully simple. The photograph, I think, just captures Bolan brilliantly. The photograph is credited to Ringo Starr, who was at that time filming one of T-Rex's films. Was it Bolan Boogie? I forgot. Born to Boogie? Bolan Boogie? I've forgotten the title of the film, but Ringo Starr was the producer director for that, and he's credited with taking these photos. But allegedly, Tony Visconti, the producer of the album, claims that he took the photos, in fact, but that Bolan just wanted to get Ringo on the credits for name dropping purposes, really. But anyway, whichever it is, I just think it's a stunner. It's my favourite T-Rex album cover, and that's the Slider from 1972. My number 3. My number 2 is Billy Paul, the Philadelphia soul singer, War of the Gods, and yeah, look at that. I hope you can see that all right. This is, the artwork is by a guy called Roger Hayne, who was famous for doing the sort of Lion Witch in the Wardrobe and the Narnia, and particularly doing the paperback art, or the book cover art for those stories. And inside, a brilliant photo of Billy Paul up on the mountaintop, looking totally over the top and preposterous. And that's what this album is. It's way over the top. It's Philly soul meets prog rock. The cover looks like it more should be Pink Floyd rather than Billy Paul, and that's what you get, really. And I just think it's yeah, it's absolutely superb. So I'll put it in as my number 2. The photograph is by a guy called Ed Karieff. And sadly, yeah, Roger Hayne, who designed this, was killed 6 months after he did this. He was mugged in Central Park in New York, apparently, and died of his injuries. But yeah, brilliant piece of work. Billy Paul, War of the Gods, my number 2. Which brings me to my number 1, my favourite album artwork from this collection behind me. And I'll hold it up, but I think everybody will be able to tell what it is. Certainly people my age will be able to tell what it is, even though there's no title of the band or the album title or anything on the front or back. But this is King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson King. And that is on the front. That's the 21st Century Schizoid Man, which is the opening track. And on the inside you've got the lyrics alongside the Crimson King himself. And this artwork was by a guy called Barry Godber, who was a friend of the band. He was the only artist anyone in the band knew. I think he was particularly a friend of Pete Sinfield, the lyricist. And they asked him to design this. They'd sent him the music. And I think he got it absolutely spot on. I mean, apparently he based this image on a self-portrait of himself looking in a distorted mirror, a sort of shaven mirror with a distorted glass. And yeah, it just, for anyone who's listened to this album, I just think that is absolutely perfect. And the other thing is that, I mean, I mentioned the Hendrix one was designed to stop you in your tracks because it's exploitative naked women, so people, at least men, might stop as they're looking through it. But this one, every time I see it, even though I've already got the album, even though I know what it is, if I'm flicking through records and I come to that, it just stops me, absolutely stops me still. And it sums up the music contained within. Yeah, apparently Robert Fripp, the guitarist from King Crimson, still owns the original artwork of this, which is good to know that it's still in good hands. Because the artist, sadly, he died within a year of doing this. It's the only album cover he ever did. He died of a heart attack very young. not long after this, Barry Godber. But that's my number one, King Crimson from 1969, In the Court of the Crimson King. Alright, well, that was probably just a bit of fun stroke self-indulgence talking about my favourite record covers. Next time it'll be